Very often people forget that the relationship is not just about, a physical relationship, but there is a project that is necessary, a life project. It could be raising a family, travel together in the world and be companions for life. If they can get passionate about it, it will have an impact on sexuality because that reaches an emotional part of that person, which is very important. Watching Netflix does not reach an emotional part of a person. It stays at a surface level.
Welcome to another episode of Yana TV, where we have authentic conversations with impactful and conscious people of Asia. And today in the studio with us, we have Dr. Kausthub Desikachar.
Namaste.
So thank you, Namaste, for joining us. And we're going to be talking about relationships. Where do we begin?
I think we should begin first with our own relationship with ourselves.
I like that.
There are three domains that are quite significant in relationships. First is, I think most people don't even know anything about themselves and who they are, what they want. So in a certain way, they lack a relationship to their own true nature. If you look at Asian countries where we are now, parents from a very young age put expectations on the kids like, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a scientist, you have to be a lawyer, you have to earn money. These kind of projections are given. So very often when we grow up with that kind of idea, we lose a connection to our own true nature. So when you have a dysfunctional relationship with yourself, how is that going to get translated into a relationship with another person? And I'm not talking only about relationship with a partner, but also with other family members, other social members. I just become a part of a system. And that's what you see many times people have. There is no unique nature. And I think Asian people have this also mentality quite a bit where there's like a group mentality. If Uniqlo makes one t-shirt, they make 20,000 million of that and everybody wears a t-shirt. Or Muji, everybody wears a t-shirt. There's no unique identity of, well, I want to be different, because if you are different, you are chopped off. So the way to relate with others becomes through a dysfunctional relationship with oneself. And that further aggravates the third relationship, which is the relationship to the divine or nature or things like that. We hardly spend time nowadays with connection to nature, connection to spiritual forces and things like that. So we really suffer in all the three domains of our relationship. That's what I see. And in order to change that trend, we need to not change other people or seek people who will resonate with our values, but rather to actually work on ourselves and see what is it that we are, what is our true nature, and not be afraid of being our true nature. In my own personal experience, this is what happened. I was living a life for a long time based on what I was supposed to live until the time where I started to live my life based on what I want to live.
I think we all have been there.
And exactly. And I lost a lot of artificial relationships, which was very relieving for me. And I found a lot of people who actually came to me. And this is a conversation I always have with my students and my clients, where they always say, oh, if I find just that safe set of friends, then I can be myself. I actually believe in the opposite theory. I say, be yourself. The set of safe friends will form around you, because all the fake ones will disappear and all the real ones with whom you can be yourself and with whom they can be themselves with you will form around you.
And when we focus on the Singapore, it's a relationship, particularly in
Yes.
Singapore. What do you see is happening here?
Well, I also see in Singapore and also in much of Asia, one of the trends that is happening is a lot of non-intimate relationships.
And marriages that were not consummated, for
Yes.
example.
Sexless marriage, for example, or even sexless relationships. Very, very often I talk to young people and they are often say they are in a relationship, but what they usually end up doing is usually scrolling Netflix together. They're having Netflix marathon, but they don't really have an intimate relationship with a partner. And somehow there seems to be a blockage in them. And this is again translating into the very, very low fertility rates in Singapore,
I was just
especially.
going to say, I know that Singapore is actually, it is absolutely true, and there is study about this, and I know that even the government was concerned, and there are funds, particularly to kind of fund sexologists that are here to educate, especially young people.
Yes.
How do you, get around it?
This is a problem in multiple dimensions, which is even further aggravating for the mental health issues, because healthy sexual relationship is very good for our physiological well-being as well as psychological well-being. And
so why do you think it is happening? Why do you think that there are so many couples, especially in this part of the world, that just don't get there?
First and foremost, I would attribute it to a lack of self-confidence with their own bodies. There is a very great disconnection that I see with people have with their own bodies. They are not aware of their bodies. And very often they're even ashamed of their bodies because they are projected some fake images on Instagram, TikTok, and all that, how it should appear. So they are very afraid to be in relationship with their own body, which is not matching that standard of the influencers who are probably using fake videos and fake filters and all that.
And there are all kind of apps that can make you look in all kind of way with your body, and it looks real.
Yes. And that's one part of the problem. That is lack of self-confidence in their own body. And the other thing is, today we are so much used to like digital technology that we are actually missing how to touch people, how to educate people about touching. And I think this is where you talked a little earlier about sexologists comes in very handy, because people do not know how to relate with another person.
I think especially
intimately.
Actually in Asia, where the whole culture, it's just part of the mentality, you don't touch. I mean, touching is not common.
We have an ambivalent relationship with touching because, we grew up in a culture where we are not supposed to touch, no touch, no touch, no touch, no touch. And then we are thrust into a marriage, and then immediately we are supposed to make somebody pregnant.
Yes.
And it's a trauma for the people, because sudden pressure. And I think that is part of the job of sexologists and health workers, and also people like me who mentor a lot of people, is to re-educate people on how to be comfortable with physical intimacy. And that's again going back to the concept, because if you can't be intimate with yourself, it's very difficult to be intimate with somebody else.
I like this interesting idea. So how do you actually become intimate with yourself? Like, how does it mean?
Accept your body as it is. Look at your body, appreciate it, and let go of all this kind of expectation that we have to be a certain way. We have to appreciate our uniqueness. There's no two people who will look the same, who will be the same, and we really have to appreciate our uniqueness, because this uniqueness is a gift. And we have to be comfortable with that. We have to re-educate people to be comfortable with that. And again, I don't think we should do it just by ourselves. When we are engaging with relationship with other partners or friends, we must encourage physical contact. I think we are physically starved, touch starved.
They do say our society in general is physically deprived.
If you look at science, we evolved from a species of monkeys, one type of monkey or the other. And if you look at that species of monkeys, they're very tactile.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Touching is very important. If you go to the zoo here, the Singapore Zoo, the best in the world, see all these monkeys, they're touching all the time. They're taking out the takes, they are lying on top of each other. And I think that is something that we need to re-educate, touching culture, but healthy and appropriate touching. And I think that is part of the problem also, is that we are not educating people about giving sex education to youngsters in the appropriate manner. And therefore, young people have to either not at all resort to it,
or resort to something we don't want them to resort to.
They go into a perversion where they watch the wrong sources, and then they get into wrong ideas. And we are stuck in between two extremes. Either there's an asexual category or a perverted sexual category. And the healthy category is what we need to focus on. We need to bring people to the middle. And that is where we should start becoming comfortable to talk.
Let's say if someone is finding themselves to be in a relationship which is sexless, and now they're watching and listening, and they're like, oh my God, this is me, what do I do?
I think they should seek help. There is no shame in this because it's like going to a doctor for your health problems.
So who do you go to? Sexologist? What kind of person helps
The person
with that?
could go to a sexologist,
Mentor.
the person could be going to a relationship advisor, mentors or life coaches, whoever they feel comfortable with. And depending on the problem, depending on the nature of the problem, they may not necessarily need a sexologist first and foremost, but they could definitely go talk to a family counselor or a family therapist, relationship counselor, things like that, so that they can see which areas of the relationship that needs work. If there are some problems which are biological or physiological, then they need to address it in a separate way. Perhaps they need to even go to a medical doctor for help. But if it is mostly about intimacy emotionally and things like that, I think counselors, family counselors, relationship advisors, even a psychotherapist will be very helpful because, as I said earlier, we need to get comfortable with ourselves first. And this is very, very essential. And the other thing that they can do is actually start to talk to the partners and actually ask what are their common goals. Because one of the things I have realized when talking to some of my clients is many of the people, they don't know what their partners are thinking and feeling and wanting.
Wants, particularly, right?
And so unless you have that conversation.
So communication.
Exactly. And this is also very, very significant because communication is a very important aspect of relationship, and majority of the divorces happen because of a lack of proper or appropriate communication. Once communication is sorted out, many of the relationship problems disappear. Lack of communication is not communication, just assuming that the other person should know what they want.
We are not mind readers, and definitely not when it comes to sexuality. I mean, this is a particular areas where no one is a mind reader. So unless you're actually able to have a grown-up conversation about it, the partner would not know.
And that is a very unreasonable expectation people put on their partners, that their partner should know what is in their mind. It's impossible. So both the man and the woman should actually communicate with each other what they want. And I think finding a common purpose or project in their marriage or in their relationship. Very often people forget that the relationship is not just about, a physical relationship, but there is a project that is necessary, a life project. It could be raising a family. Even if it is not about having children or whatever, if they say, well, we would like to travel together in the world and be companions for life. If they can get passionate about it, it will have an impact on sexuality because that reaches an emotional part of that person, which is very important. Watching Netflix does not reach an emotional part of a person. It stays at a surface level.
Okay, so the final question for today. What do you feel is the most beautiful quality of self-intimacy? Why it is so important?
Honoring my uniqueness. I look at my own body and accept the gifts that I have. What I have, I appreciate. I don't want to have somebody else's body because then that would not be real. So this is also what is called authenticity. Authenticity is to accept ourselves as who we are. I mean, in India, when I grew up, we had these creams called Fair and Lovely that all the people should have who were dark skinned were sold that they should be more fairer, otherwise they're not beautiful. And when I started traveling, I realized that all the Europeans who were so white, they all wanted to be dark.
Yeah, entirely different, exactly.
And I'm like, what? This is a big lie that is being told that, in India, they're saying, well, if you are dark-skinned, you are not attractive. And then in the Western countries, I start
if you're
saying,
if
you're not tanned, you're not attractive.
Healthy, you're not looking healthy enough.
So a big lie is being told to sell products. So if you guys can accept your nature and we guys can accept our own gifts like how our body is, that would be fine. Because this diversity is what actually creates the beauty in the world. If all the flowers in the garden were the same, it wouldn't be so exciting. And that is also good about Singapore is we are a very diverse country, and I think that is something that we should appreciate. The religious diversity we have, the cultural diversities we have, the language diversities we have, I think it's extraordinary. So I think that is the thing. We should not compare ourselves. We should be comfortable with every part of our body and accept that body is changing.
Thank you so much. And that was Dr. Kausthub Desikachar on Yana TV. And we talk about relationships and everything around it. Intimacy, self-intimacy, marriages, sexless relationships. And I'm so curious, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. And of course, remember to subscribe and like and share. And I'm going to go see you next time. I count as a Singaporean, given that I'm officially a Singaporean. Do you think would local Singaporeans be okay with Singaporeans like me?
I think you have now just contributed to an extra Singaporean by becoming a mother.
Singaporean, exactly.